before we begin here. So first off, how long have you been playing Overwatch for?
So roughly the beginning, but I didn't take it too seriously. I was just told one tricking on Xbox and just
Okay.
having a time with that. And got to like level 400, and then I just stopped ever the total since the total rework happened.
Okay.
And then I re-downloaded it on PC like a year ago, but I haven't really tried to pick it up yet.
Okay. And then let's say like the past 2 weeks or so, how often have you been playing the game?
Like every day.
Okay. And then you're playing tank now, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. And then final question for you before we begin is do you have any questions for me before we start?
No, but oh wait, I do have one, but it's not about Overwatch.
Okay.
Ever since the Oh Nicole video, have you been like getting a boost in coaching services?
Yeah, so that was a long while ago. That was a nice boost back when I was first starting. Now it has been a long while since then, so the boost since then has really stopped because it hasn't really gotten many views outside of the first couple of months of it on it. But yeah, that definitely did help out, especially when first starting up in it. So yeah, at the beginning, not anymore. That's cool. When did you see that video? Just recently?
I saw it like a year ago, but I just like it was one of those videos where you just watch and then click off it. I'm just like,
Yeah. Mhm.
I just want to get a man. I've been stuck here for like 200 levels.
Move. All right. Well, do my best, man. I'll help you out. I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
uh,
Oh, that should not have connected. All right.
you gotta love hitboxes, man.
All right, so when it comes to shielding, I'll talk now since the fight's pretty much over. And when it comes to shielding, you only shield for specific things. Right now, we're shielding for a lot of just random spam damage, stuff that's not really going to kill anybody, whereas we probably want to be shielding for specific things such as abilities, ultimates, when we're low, when we have teammates that are low, when we are pushing forwards aggressively, when we're backing up, or with there's like a ton of spam damage coming through. Whereas we've just kind of been holding it up for any old random thing that comes through, and that's going to end up burning our shield really fast a lot of the time, so it's not really necessary. So just watch for specific instances in which it is necessary, and make sure we're not holding it when it's not. So preferably here, we should not be on cart, we should be pushing forwards. You only ever need one person on cart unless you're just right about to cap the point. But tanks usually want to push forward so that they can take extra space, maybe take the high ground from them or that sort of thing. All right, big thing there is just make sure that you're not isolating yourself from your whole team. So if you are going to take the high ground there, you want to make sure that you're like dropping to the like on the edge and making sure your supports can heal you and your team can see you, because there we ran into that tiny room and then just they were able to isolate us and we didn't have healing, we didn't have team support, and we died as a result. Are you on
Uh,
a bunch of ping right now? I'm noticing a lot of charges are like connecting weirdly.
no,
No? Huh, interesting.
this
Yeah.
feels really smooth.
Yeah. So in any case, on make sure that you're getting charged quite a bit. And make sure that we're trying. I'll talk in a moment. My bad.
Echo.
Yeah. So make sure like up against other Reinhardts that we're just being careful not to get charged. You can counter pin just by charging back at him. But you only want to do that if it's safe to do so. Like if you have your team with you and he doesn't have his team. On top of that, just stand off to the sides and make sure you're trying to dodge them. Dodge the charges so we're not just getting charged and then dying. Very nice.
I didn't know if that would connect or not. We're close to payload, so why not just stay?
Yep.
And monkey's feeding.
Very massive shatter. Very well played with that. Oh, though do watch out for the bubble there. Don't suicide to try to get the kill. It's just better that you survive and live to kill more people than to try to suicide to kill the Zenyatta. So watch your health bar there. You don't have to secure the kill on the Zen when you can just have teammates do it for you. Put your shield up
True.
and then you can stay alive. Hmm. There
I
when
should have rotated right.
Yeah, there when Genji came in behind you, maybe we could have turned around and charged them as an option we have. That's usually a good idea to go for like on Genji when he goes for nano blades and whatnot. Okay, good shield there. Very nice pin. Right now, that was a situation where we should have been pushing, but instead we just kind of stood there and shielded, which just meant that they broke all our shield. We'll talk about more in depth after this game is done about like how we should be getting aggressive and whatnot,
Uh,
because that seems like it's a thing to work on. Oh, double shatter kill. That's nuts. Okay. Good shatter again, though instead of just standing there shielding while you're looking for your shatter, use the payload as cover so you're not just having to sit there shielding and, you make sure you're using cover, put yourself behind it. You can also shatter underneath the payload. That's something else we could have gone for there. Is just don't stand still and shield because then they just melt your shield and now you don't have a shield, right? Besides that, massive both shatters looked very, very solid. And then besides that, a lot of the work we're looking at right now is shield management and aggression is what we're looking at mostly. And then a couple just making sure, a couple of other instances here and there, but that's just the first round.
mind if I record this so I can just play this back?
Yeah,
Because
so I'm recording this, so I usually upload it for people to just go back and watch, so you don't have to if you don't want to.
oh, sweet, thank you.
Yeah,
Like,
no
do you do
problem.
the full VOD?
Yep, full thing.
Sweet.
Yep, that's
Because
why.
like
Good.
it's hard. My bad. So it's
Mhm.
hard to like after watching. I can't remember that one dude, but he's like been around since day one of Overwatch, and he's like that community series of coaching like Gold
Uh,
Reinhardt.
Jane, maybe? I think
It's
Jane,
gonna bug me.
Stylosa, trying to think of other well-known coaches. IO Stux. No, none of those guys.
Stylosis.
Stylosa. Oh yeah, yeah.
I watch like a lot of his videos of the Reinhardt, but it's kind of like hard because it's not my own gameplay to put in
Yeah,
perspective.
exactly right. Like the things that those guys are struggling with aren't the same things that you're going to be necessarily struggling with, to the same extents.
F action.
Okay, there to just kill the Bastion faster, going for a pin might have been a good idea. Right on him, especially if he's just standing still and he has nowhere to go. It might be very easy just to get a pin on him. Oh, like that was good. We just want to make sure that we're watching our health bar and not trying to be insanely aggressive when we are being shot at by like 4 people. So we just
Yeah.
got to be careful about that because we did end up dying as a result. Just got to be extra careful that we're putting up shield when it's needed. I like the charge to get back from spawn. That was a good idea. Good job shielding when you're low, and again, massive shatter.
I missed that.
Unfortunate, yeah. So, besides that, I like the swinging tech around too. That when you were swinging around in circles just to get get your crosshair around and hit more people with your hammer. Besides that, there we just got too over aggressive. I'm noticing we're dying quite a bit too. So, deaths definitely are something we can talk a little bit about after this game is done as well. We'll talk a little bit on aggression and deaths.
Uh,
Okay.
been trying to look back a lot to see where everyone is.
That's a very good idea. I was about to, that was something I was thinking about. That was a good idea not to engage there. Um, Maybe a charge we can go for like on the Bastion right there when he's not paying attention to you, right? Like you can just charge off the high ground on him, something of that sort when everybody's looking away. Very
Well
solid.
played. He's gonna shatter.
Oh, that stinks. Alright, I mean, solo craft, not much we could do there. But, yeah, solo craft and bladed.
Or you got it.
Yeah, good decision to back up there. Like that we're just being aware of our surroundings. Make sure when Zarya bubbles you that you just peek out in the open so that she can actually get energy off the bubble, right? Instead of running around behind cover.
Okay.
Nice counter charge.
Just in time.
Alright, so a couple things there. First off, we of course just let our team get shattered. Try not to let the Reinhardt pass you and making sure we're blocking it for him from shattering your team. So make sure you're staying in front of him so he can't just walk past you. Besides that, good shatter, though we maybe could have used it earlier on in the fight. Just try to do your best to use it earlier because that'll be where it gets more value is when it's earlier in the fight
When
rather
everybody's
than later.
alive.
Yeah, when everyone's alive, right, you have more people to shoot into the people you have down. And then it gives, if they use Shatter first, then they'll be killing your teammates. And, well, almost fairly good. And they can also stop you, if you lose before you get a chance to use it, then you're just forced to hold on to it. Just landing these pins is looking like something we want to work on. It's just making sure they're connecting. There as well, just it looks like we just got melted pretty fast because we missed the pin as well.
Yeah.
Noticing that we're dying a lot at the very beginning of fights, and then that's leading to a lot of mistakes. So, like I said, we'll talk more in depth on our deaths after this game is done, but a lot of our deaths do need work. Oh, make sure we're not engaging when we don't have teammates. Alright, so I did say that, and then right after I said it, you had a Zarya and an Ana like drop right on top of your head. So
Yeah.
right after you were joined by them, that would have been fine for you to engage, since you did have more teammates who came back. You had Shatter available, so that is potentially contestable. So it was just being aware of how many teammates you have with you. Don't engage right away when you don't have them, but engage when you do have them. Okay, nice kills.
If I just went for the shadow there, I think that'll be like too risk to like pushed up.
I don't think it like right there at the end to finish the rest of those guys off.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. You can push up like pretty much all the way into spawn as long as you have a big advantage. So if you're up two people, don't feel afraid to push forwards far. Right, especially if the rest of your team comes with you.
Why not have shadow?
Alright, so real quick, you can press tab. Okay, so you had 10 deaths, so let's talk on those real quick. Don't get into a queue just because tank queues are pretty fast, so you don't have to. So we will talk on aggression and whatnot. If you'd like to take a look, I am streaming. First off, let's just talk about deaths. So when it comes to deaths there, we just had 10 deaths. Every single death, you are going to have 10 seconds of time where you are respawning and 10 seconds of time where you are walking back to the fight. And then therefore, roughly each death is going to be 20 seconds of time in which you are doing not just absolutely nothing, but also actively putting your team at a disadvantage, right? When you're dying, you're putting your team down a player. In fact, it's your main tank, which is a pretty important character to have. And then that means that you're going to be more likely to lose that fight, right? Which means that we want to be staying alive. So that 10 deaths, right? So if we do 10 times 20, right, and then divide by 60 for how many minutes, right? Which would mean that in our last game that we were in, we spent about
4 minutes.
Go ahead.
4 minutes.
3 minutes and 20 seconds, right?
Oh.
During that entire time. So that is, if you think about it, that's a pretty long time to be dead for, because that means that in that time we could have had like 2 to 3 shatters, right? We could
Yeah.
have been doing a lot of stuff. We could have been helping our team, winning fights. We could have been doing a lot of damage, right? So that's a lot of wasted potential time that we could be using if we cut down our deaths. Even just like, let's say we just cut out 3 deaths, that's in a whole extra minute of time that you get to be participating, right? Which is pretty nuts to think about it, or to think about. So then on top of that, keep in mind that some deaths are worse than other deaths, like a death at the very beginning of a fight, right? You being dead
Yeah.
first on your team is much worse than being dead last on your team, because if you're dying last, you've pretty much already lost the fight by then, right? If you're dying last, but if you've died first, that means that you're the one making your team lose the fight, right? You're the one having the impact on the loss, right? So a lot of our deaths, we ended up dying first, and that's going to be partly because we're playing Reinhardt, and where Reinhardt will be dying probably more often first than other characters. But at the same time, we also just want to make sure we're trying not to die first, which means that we just got to be careful, being ready to put up our shield and being careful with our positioning and how we're being aggressive. So just overall, trying to die less will allow us to do more, right? But that doesn't mean that we just back up in the spawn and don't do anything, right? We don't want to just do nothing the entire game and not die, because then of course you're not participating. So we want to die while also doing things. So let's talk about aggression, and this is where the stream comes in, like where we should be paying attention. So aggression, we've already talked about shield management, right? Just to reiterate,
Yeah.
since you're in the middle of playing, right, you're not shielding for every little bit of spam, whereas like we'd come into fights, right, enemy team there, we're here, and we just kind of sit here and let them shoot our shield. We don't want to do that. Shield is needed for specific instances, such as when we are low, our team is low, blocking abilities, ultimates, when we're going in, when we're backing out, and when we are blocking a ton of spam damage, such as like when we're in a graph, right? Those are instances where spam damage is needed. You don't need to block every single shot in the game, because that means that you're just not going to have a shield, and it's really realistically a lot of times not going to kill your teammates. So on top, that's just the shield management, but on top of that, we also have a little bit of aggression. So sometimes at the very beginning of fights, right, we would just kind of sit there. We just kind of stand there. Whereas a lot of times, what you want to do is go aggressive immediately, right? If we sit here and stand here, then they're just going to spam our shield down. Now, if we don't have shield and we push in aggressively without shield, then we're just going to get melted. We don't have a way to escape. We don't have a way to get out. But if we go in before our shields is broken, now we have shield to actually get out with, right? We have shield to go in and get out with, right? Which means that we have a lot more survivability for when we are engaging, right? So make sure we're going in when we have health and when we have shields, and not going in when we don't have health and we don't have shields. Whereas sometimes we just kind of sit around to start off, make sure that we're getting aggressive and going in and getting on top of people, as especially at the very beginning of the fights, sometimes we just kind of hang around a little bit, whereas you want to be getting aggressive and going in on top of people, so that you can actually secure kills and do things, as Reinhardt likes to brawl and get on top of people. Now, one thing I would say to just keep up, though, is I did like how we used No Man's Land and choke points. No Man's Land being long, open stretches of space where there's no cover at all. I liked how we held at the end of them instead of the front of them, which is really good defensively. That's an instance where you would let them come to you, though instead of, what we did do wrong was that instead of holding just around the corner and fire striking once in a while, and just holding the corner and waiting for them to come to you and shielding once in a while, what we did was we just kind of sat here and shielded and sat out in the open. So make sure that we're using cover properly. Go over to corners. In general, play on cover and corners. Couple benefits that come along with this. First off, you can put your shield around the corner, which will mean that now they can only see half of your shield, and therefore your shield will be spammed a lot less, and you'll be able to keep it alive longer. And then
Yeah.
second, and then on top of that, this will also encourage your team to play good positioning, because what if your shield goes down? What if your shield breaks? Your team's going to be out in the open without any cover if they're sitting behind you. Same with yourself. Whereas if we hold cover, well, now we have good positioning because we can do this, and then also we encourage our team to have good positioning behind us. As Reinhardt, we have the most basically, as a Reinhardt, we have the most say out of any character on our team over where our team positions, right? Ana's not going to be telling your team where to position. Reinhardt does, right? So by you standing in the corner, you encourage good positioning to your team. So make sure we stand on the corner and not just out in the open, which we did a lot of times. And then those were a lot of the main points. Besides that, just make sure that we are actually landing our pins, as a lot of times pins just didn't connect. So make sure we're trying to work on that to land them a little bit better. Sometimes if you're too close to somebody, what you can do is jump backwards before you pin, and that can give you some more space to work with to possibly just adjust a little bit before you actually land the pin. So you can do a backwards jump before you charge, and then that can give you some more space to work with. Besides that, let's just talk over strengths and weaknesses real quick, of like what's looking like the big problems and what are you looking like you're solid at, and then you can hop into another game after that.
Uh,
So, oh, you got a game? Is that?
no,
Oh,
it's
you
training
got.
mode. My bad.
Yeah.
I was just going over like what you said in my head.
Yep. Are you familiar with the Tech 2 turnarounds with your shield and look behind you?
How are you doing
Yeah.
that?
So you hold right click, right to shield, of course, and then you're gonna hold left click and then drag, like just hold it and then drag your mouse around. Okay.
Jeez.
Yep. So I noticed while we were playing, we would look around, like we'd manually look around and turn our shield. So this is just a very easy way to look behind yourself real quick, without having to actually turn your shield. Other thing you can do is if you let go of your right click while still holding left click, you will snap to where you're looking. So like if you look behind yourself and then let go right click, you will turn around. Whereas if you let go of your left click, you'll just snap back forwards. Okay, so snap back forwards,
Oh.
and then if I'm trying to turn around, I can just do that. So for example, if I'm trying to do like a turnaround chatter, like if I'm just trying to do something like this, where I where I'm trying to turn around and shatter real quickly, I can just let go and then shatter. Another tech that people will do with something like that is they'll shield into a wall and do that turn tech, so you can actually see around the corner like so, and then you can wait till they drop their shields, turn around the corner and shatter real quick. Right?
I've never seen this in my life.
Yeah. No problem, man. So, on top of that, some other techie things is you can use corner, since your Fire Strike has a charge up animation, keep in mind that you can just press the button while you're around the corner, and this can mean that you're not going to be out in the open for as long. So this means you can press the button here, drag it, and then come back. That way you're not just sitting here the whole time while you're Fire Striking. So you just gotta get used to the timing a little bit. So you press it, turn the corner, and then you press, turn the corner, and then you just come back. So, in any case, is there anything else that you were gonna try out? And then I think I'll just go over strengths weaknesses real quick here. So strengths weaknesses. First off, let's start with ability usage. Shield management needs work. Fire strikes don't need work. Charges need work, right? That's just kind of how those three work.
Yeah.
So overall, I would say it's looking around like a medium priority for you to work on it. Just abilities, they need a bit of work, kind of around the middle of of a priority. Your ultimate usage, honestly looking very solid. Not a lot of work needed. Maybe there's like one instance where you could have used it a bit faster, but besides that, we landed most of them, which meant that we got a lot of kills out of it.
Yeah.
That meant that one, honestly, for the moment, we'll just put that at a low priority. Not a lot of work needed. Maybe we might bump it up a little bit if we see more needed. Moving on. Let's see. Reinhardt doesn't have mechanics, but aggression and awareness is probably going to be the big one here. Probably just going to put that at a medium-high priority for you to work on. Just want to be getting, being aware of our surroundings and getting aggressive at the right times. And then finally, we have positioning. Positioning, I would think I would put at like probably a medium for now. Yeah, we'll just put it around the medium. And then also one more category I'll add in is survivability. That I'll add in once in a while when people struggle with it, and that's just staying alive, making sure we're, actively doing stuff. And then that one we'll put at a medium priority as well. We'll just tie those all up for the moment, and then we'll spread them out as we go. All right, you can go ahead and hop into another game now. And then I'll stop my recording as well.
That's something I gotta work on is shielding and left clicking.
Mm-hmm. Shielding and left clicking, is that so? Like looking behind you, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah.
doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that called, so I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's how you do it.
I don't know if it has a specific name for it, as far as I'm aware. So I mean, you just looking behind you while you're shielding. I don't know.
It's actually really useful to see like what
Yep.
position your team is.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's why they added it into the game. All right. Couple things. First off, don't overuse it, as it's not going to be applicable in every instance, and it will lock your shield, so you're not going to be able to adjust it to block up people if they start shooting at you from a different angle. So the only times you're really going to be using that is if you're trying to peek around the corner, or if you're trying to see your team behind you. It's not going to be every single instance you ever use your shield, though. Besides
Okay.
that, try to make sure you push at the very start. You wanted to push in a little bit faster to take some space and make it so that you had some better positioning there. And then watch the shatter.
I expect him to have it that fast.
Yeah, they did compare it to your own shatter, right? Like he did a lot more, he won the fight, he swung a lot more, therefore he has it. Now you know, okay, I'm 60 and he's probably going to be like 20 right now, right? So you can compare, kind of keep track of it at that pacing, right? Just adjust of where where was he versus where is he now. Very nice charge. All right, very solid. All right, so we're gonna have to talk about positioning, I guess, after this game's done. You aware of
Oh
what a
yeah.
you aware of what a show? I guess we'll talk about it afterwards, or I'll tell you where to go afterwards. All right, there. Just push a little bit far forwards. Make sure you're sticking with your team. Are you aware of what a choke point is?
I've heard of it, but I don't understand it.
Okay, so then we'll go over that when we get the chance. But for now, I'll just point out what the one is on this map, just so you can hope maybe win the game. And
Yeah.
that would be all like the high ground, the little room on the high ground. So when you win the fight, you want to go and take the high ground, basically. But I'll understand. I'll explain why it's really good and what they look like after the game's done. And nice kills.
So this spot?
Yep, exactly. Just go up and hold there.
I ain't gonna cover that, but Jeep.
Yeah, our shield got melted pretty fast, so maybe slightly better shield management could have let us keep it alive longer, and then that would mean that we would be able to have it and not die, right? So just trying to do our best to maximize how we're using our shield, as well as the fact that there we didn't really have cover we were using too well. So again, we'll maybe talk about more in depth on positioning after this game is done, and we'll go into a little bit of that. Oh, well, Reinhardt was sleeping. That would have been a perfect time to go for a shatter, right? So make sure we're not just waking him up with a swing.
Uh,
All right. Good first round. So, just as a quick explanation of what a choke is a funnel. So, any close, tight space where they have to come through is a choke. That's going to be very good for you to hold on the back end of, because they have to walk through this tiny little area and your entire team can spam them while they're walking through. So, think, for example, your Fire Strike. If they're all grouped up in this tiny little ball as they're coming through the choke and you Fire Strike through that, you're hitting every single person. Same thing with the rest of your team's damage. It's very easy to put all of your damage condensed into that tiny little area if they're walking through it. So you want to hold at them, and I'll explain more so what they look like and how to hold them after the game is over, and we'll go a little bit more in depth on them. But that is roughly speaking what a choke is. It is a tiny little funnel, or it
yeah,
could be
okay.
a bigger funnel too. Just a funnel.
I just realized he was sleeping.
Yep, it's just an awareness thing, right? We just gotta see that faster, listen to it, watch it. You know, they're on the floor, they have the Z's coming out of their head, so we just gotta make sure we're paying attention. Here, do we have teammates with us? We just want to take a look around. Like, we still have some people walking back from spawn, so we just want to be careful about that. You know, we might want to push forwards if we had our whole team with us, but if we're down some people, then we might want to hang back a little bit.
Like, is this a choke now?
Yep, exactly. Right when they're coming through that tiny little stairway. Yep, that's basically a choke.
Do we stay here?
I might want to watch the person on point though. But yep, you definitely can't hold up there after you have chased them away. Nice block.
When I lost Genji?
Oh, what you say about the Genji?
Oh, we only lost the Genji that fight.
Yeah. Oh, there, charging it probably didn't get us very much value, and then maybe if we didn't, we could have finished off the Baby Diva, right? And could have maybe gotten cover as well, and then that could have stopped us from wasting our shield up against the bomb. All right, so a couple questions for you before we get into just going over some of that stuff we're going to talk about. So, how recently, you say you've been playing again for a year? Have you been trying to get in competitively during that year, or have you only recently started to get really competitive with stuff?
So I was playing with the old Torbjorn.
Hmm.
So I don't know how long ago was that. That has to be like a few
Yeah,
years ago.
that was like
So
2-3 years.
yeah, I
Probably
was
say like more
mostly
than that.
playing on Xbox,
Mhm.
and then I'm just like, and because at the time I was like trying to get into competitive, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna have fun, and I hit low diamond with Torbjorn only because
Okay.
nobody knows to shoot the Torbjorn and then the
Mhm.
turret.
Okay. So on more so like whenever you swapped to tank, like do you currently have a lot of time in comp, or do you play quick play a lot, or how does that work?
Uh, I think I have a lot of time in comp.
All time in comp? Okay. So would you say that you have any problems when it comes to like tilt queuing or anything of that sort? Like do you feel like do you go on long losing streaks? Like when you do lose, will you lose like I don't know, like 10 games in a day or something like that at all?
That happened to me recently, but then I'm just like, yeah, I'm taking a little like mental break. I usually play like a few games at a time.
Okay. So yeah, I just recommend in that case make sure that you set a limit for yourself. So if you lose, for example, more than like 3 games in a row or in a day, then just take a break, like, even if it's like 30 minutes so that you can just get a mental refresh. Because if you keep playing when you're losing, you're just going to keep losing because you're going to get tilted. You're just going to be, of course, if you're just playing while you're losing, you're going to be playing while you're doing poorly. And then this can skew your gameplay to where you're playing when you're doing okay or playing your averagely or when you're playing better, and then overall that's just going to mean that you're going to be climbing an SR. Then you're also going to have more fun along with that. Besides that, just the reason why I'm asking is because quite honestly, this gameplay at the moment. And then, sorry, the last question is: would you say that right now you're playing extra good, or do you feel like you're just kind of playing averagely?
A little bit better than I used to,
A little bit
and I
better than you
am.
used to. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just asking all those questions because I'm at the moment the gameplay does seem above a gold level, so I'm just trying to evaluate and see like, okay, what is it that might be holding you back if you seem to at least if you seem to be playing above a gold level, yet you're still in gold. So me, it could just be extra good games are having here, and then that would be that would explain it right away if you just play extra good, because obviously that extra good once in a while doesn't explain consistency at all, right? You want to be able to play consistently this good,
Yeah.
not just once in a while this good. So in any case, let's just continue on, and we'll go over some stuff here. So I think we are just going to we can go over choke points, and then was there something else I was going to talk about? I can't recall if there was. We're gonna talk about chokes and then cover usage. Okay, so why don't we talk about cover usage first, just because that's basic positioning. So if we are standing right over here, right, and I'm gonna stop watching your stream, by the way, just because of
Yeah, the echo.
yeah, just because of the audio. So in any
Yeah.
case, if we're standing right here and the whole enemy team's standing right there, and they're all looking at us and shooting at us and doing damage, it's gonna take us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover. Now, from here, you can't, of course, shoot through solid objects, so we're safe. But in that time it took us to walk here, we died. But while we're right here, it now takes us half a second to duck behind cover, which is 6 times faster than that 3 seconds it took us before. So therefore, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. When we are standing around things that we can use to block damage, we are going to be in good positioning. Now, Reinhardt, right, you need to be getting in close to get to people, so of course we can take positioning as a bit closer, so we might want to be up closer to somewhere like this, where we can, get in close, and then we have cover to use to back up to, right, is what we want to be doing, just sometimes where we're out in the open, and we want to make sure we're using cover a bit better. Now, there's different types of cover all over the place. We can use slopes, we can use random pillars that are sitting around, use corners when we're low, when we're getting shot at, when we're not wanting the shield in between fire strikes, whatnot. You have random objects you have around the map, like the payload or whatnot. Pillar, corner, doorway, corner. The whole high ground also acts as natural cover. So high ground here, they can, I don't know how often you play only Reinhardt. So Reinhardt's usually not going to be great on, like, doesn't prefer high ground, but there are benefits that come along with it. They can see us, now they can't. He can see us, now he can't. High ground all X is natural cover. On top of that, most characters in the game can't reach you up here, which means that you have an extra layer of survivability. And then finally, you have a ton of visibility. You can see over there, over here, over here, over here, and over there. But if you're on the low ground, you can't see over there, or any of the high ground, right? So it gives you a ton of visibility. Now, Reinhardt can really do anything from high ground, so he's not going to want to take high ground very often. Though the two instances in which you can take a high ground are when you're basically gaining it for your team, and going with them there, or if you're contesting the enemy team up there, because you also keep in mind that the high ground's good for the enemy team as well, which means that you want to take it away from them. You want to rip that advantage away from them and give it to yourself, right? Now, moving on. Choke points. Choke points are funnels, these tiny little areas that the enemy team has to push through. So right here, this is a choke point. This whole area that they have to walk through, they have nowhere, while they're coming through this, they're going to be kind of in this area where there's no real cover, and our team can just kind of spam them the whole time very easily. So how we hold them. You don't want to hold at the front, because then they don't have to actually walk through it, and in fact, you have to walk backwards through it. We also don't want to hold in the middle, because same thing. We're in the middle of it, we have to walk backwards through it, they don't have to walk through it. Instead, we want to hold at the end, that way they have to walk through it to get to us, and we're on the end of it, so we're not standing in the middle of it, and we can just hold on this corner and wait for them to push. Now, that means that in between fights, we just want to reposition to the best place possible, aka in the last game we were in, just making sure we're repositioning back to the choke point. That way we can hold it and make them push through that bad positioning instead of just sitting on point. Right? Does all that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
And
So,
to answer your question earlier, it's
yep.
probably because sometimes I go on autopilot.
All right. Yep. That's definitely a big thing. Make sure focusing while you're playing, right? You want to make sure intentionally thinking about your decisions, and autopiloting is going to be a very easy way to just stagnate. Other things as well is making sure you're not just focusing on winning your games, right? It's just focusing on winning can lead to just stagnation where you don't really ever improve, whereas focusing on improvement is how you're actually going to improve and then therefore win more games. So while you're playing, right, think about the things you need to improve on. So for example, if we're trying to think about awareness, you can make sure your brain would look something like this, where you're going awareness, 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 right? And you're giving yourself a constant reminder. You're not going on autopilot. You're not just going swing, shield, right? You're thinking about what's around you, thinking about that stuff. When you pay attention more often, you're going to notice your awareness is going to be doing a bit better. When your awareness is doing better for a long enough period of time, it'll form as a habit. And then once it forms as a habit, you finally no longer need to put in as much thought and effort because it just kind of comes naturally and you can move on to something else now, right? But one thing I would say as a warning is make sure you're not focusing on every single thing we've talked about here, as that will get overwhelming. Instead, focus
Yeah.
on one category of things or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category. All right.
Like I'm really gonna focus on positioning after this
Yep.
because wins games.
Yep, positioning definitely can win games. At the very end, I'll give you a quick main points list of what are the things that you probably want to work on first to last. Positioning definitely is going to be one of the ones near the top in comparison, probably to ultimate usage, especially being at the bottom. Moving on, are you familiar with shield hopping at all?
No.
No? Okay, so I didn't think I saw you using that tech. So shield hopping is basically or this is just regular shielding, right? If we're just walking forwards while we're doing this, trying to close the distance, we're going super slowly. They can shoot our shield down very, very, do a whole lot of damage, melt it down while we're pushing forwards, and we're going to be approaching at a very slow pace, which allows them to shoot us for a very long time. If we don't shield, we move faster, but we're also going to we're going to get melted, and our team's going to get melted because we don't have a shield. Now, the nice balance between the two is shield hopping, where we can jump and shield, and then drop it, jump and shield while you're holding W, and it's going to look something like this. Now, this will move us at a faster pacing than just shielding normally, though slightly slower than just walking normally,
Oh.
right? And the benefits of this are you're going to be crossing that distance faster, which will mean than just hard shielding, which will mean that there's less damage, while also shielding a big bulk of the damage, which will stop people from dying on the approach. And then also any damage that does slip through will most likely not be enough to kill anybody. And this will also preserve your shield as well, as because first off, you're getting in there faster, but then also just because it's not up as much. So this is how you will approach fast, and how you can also back up fast. You can also do this backwards. So let's say they just start using a bunch of ults, we can just shield hop backwards, and then this is how we can back out really fast. Now, if your teammate is very low, just hard shield. That's fine. It's just when you're trying to push forwards and take space, or back up and give spaces when you are shield hopping. All right.
Uh,
Uh, you said
I said all right. My
Oh,
bad.
okay, yeah. Must not have picked. You must not have picked it up then. All right. So we do not have enough time. I'm trying to think here. So trying to think of like what we can do with like, because usually I take like the last 8 minutes to go over this stuff, but we might as well start on it now. Okay, so starting on main points. So these are the main points, as well as the just a quick review over everything we talked about. So ability usage, shield management, make sure that we are not just wasting it, use it for when we're pushing forwards and backing up. Shield hop, make sure that we're using it for when we are blocking, when we are low, when our teammates are low. Make sure that we are using it when we're blocking abilities or ultimates. And finally, use it when there's a ton of spam damage coming in. Don't use it for just everyday random damage though, right? Because that stuff's
Yeah.
just gonna waste it. Besides that, we can look behind by holding left click, and then put it in walls by holding corners to let it stay alive a little bit longer. And then don't just hold it up and sit there. Make sure that you're pushing in aggressively, and that gets into a little bit of aggression, but don't just sit there and holding it, because that's not how Reinhardt likes to operate. right? Moving on, fire strikes. I think with fire strikes, they're not too terrible. We use them at a decent pace. The issue, I think, is that I think what you talked about is that we seem to kind of autopilot with them, where like every time we fire strike, we just don't seem to put a lot of attention into it, and then we just some of them will just miss just barely, where we'll just like we'll fire strike and then just like hit a wall with it or something like that, or we'll just miss people. So just make sure putting an effort to landing them, though they're definitely not the most terrible thing out of your whole kit. Um, then charges definitely need a lot of work, as charges we end up missing a lot of shots, or a lot, not shots, a lot. We miss a lot of charges. We missed a lot, like most of them, in fact. Where
Yeah.
want to make sure we're just intentionally aiming them more, and we're paying attention to them and not autopiloting through our charges. On top of that, counter charge enemy Reinhardts when they charge at you. That way you're not getting charged, and make sure that you are kiting left or right of them, and only counter charge if you have a more team support than he does. Now moving on. Ultimate use, or sorry, that was. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't start with the main. I just went through ability usage. That was not the number one thing. Usually I go with the number one thing first. On accident, I did not. That's not the ability usage that I'm
Hey,
going to
cool.
do. So, number one thing. Let's put the number one thing at. In fact, a lot of this stuff was like very, very even. And you said you wanted to work on positioning anyway, so why don't we just do positioning as number one? Though keep in mind that a lot of this stuff was very, very close together, and then I'll tell you the ones that weren't close together. But a lot of this stuff is very, very close. So in any case, just put positioning as number one. Make sure that you are using cover properly. Make sure that you're using no man's land. Oh, sorry, I didn't go over no man's land, but no man's land is just similar to a choke point, except for it's just a long open area where there's no cover at all. So like this would be a no man's land. Make sure that when you're going through them that you're shield hopping and going from cover to cover, and then when you're holding them, you hold them the same way that you hold a choke at the end of it. But just make sure you're using chokes and shield and no man's lands properly. And on top of that, take high ground so when needed, and reposition in between fights. Um, in fact, actually, I'm sorry. I don't think that that's the big one to work on, to be honest. Now that I'm saying like all the things you need to work on with that one, so quite honestly, that's not going to be number one. So I think I'm going to put aggression and awareness and aggression at number one. And then that one, maybe we'll put that down a little bit more. So awareness and aggression, we're going to put at number one, and make sure you're paying attention to the kill feed and what's happening there. Make sure you're paying attention to what's going on around you. Where's my team at? Where's the enemy team at? When should I be getting aggressive? When should I be playing passive? Make sure we're not just sitting around and shielding, but instead we're going in when we have health and shields. Pay attention to your health bar, request healing when you're low, right? Just paying attention to all those different things, and then getting aggressive when it's needed. Then moving on, number two, probably going to put number two at your ability usage. Make sure you're using all those properly. Number three, we'll put at your positioning. Number four, we'll put at survivability, just staying alive, making sure we're not dying all the time. Right, that is mixed, most closely intertwined with awareness and positioning. Right, if you work on those two, your survivability will be improved as well. And then finally, ultimate usage just comes very, very far at the bottom. All the top ones could be very interchangeable, but ultimate usage really didn't need any work at all. No issues there. Of course, you're not perfect with it, but in comparison to everything else, not really a lot of work needed. So, do you have any questions on anything that we've talked about, Karen?
So is the VOD gonna be in your YouTube channel or something?
So on Fiverr, you had marked, yeah, public. So you had marked it that it could go public. So yes, it will be on my YouTube channel unless you specify otherwise now if you'd like it private.
Sweet. Nah, just drop me the link, man.
Yep, will do. So any other questions?
Uh, no, not really. So, yeah, just say it's done, and then I'll just give you 5 stars because I can truly see you do care about other people getting good at this game, and that's really hard to come by. So,
Oh,
yeah,
well,
you did a good job, man.
thanks very much, man. That's much appreciated. So let me stop